Hey everyone, welcome to the Geo Community Call for July 20th. The World Cup just wrapped up yesterday, so it was a really fun day for everyone watching. Hopefully, world came together to celebrate Argentina getting their balls handed to them. So, uh, but Geo World goes on, and we have a bunch of exciting things that we're doing. Getting ready for some massive product releases. So team has been cranking and really excited for the things we're going to be releasing over the next few weeks. Um, Excited to see everybody here. Thank you for joining us today. I know that we've had an issue over the weekend that we're currently looking into. So some new proposals are not showing up. It's an indexing issue, and team is on it. So apologies for anybody that was trying to get some things published over the weekend. I should have an update for you soon. But I think we can carry on and um, do the normal agenda for today. So I'm going to pass it over to Davila to run the agenda.
Thank you. Again, welcome everybody. We have very interesting things prepared for you today. So I'll recap last week's poll that was about the favorite segment of everybody. So surprises, no surprises. It was curator demos and curator journeys. So we'll definitely be featuring more of those as we go. And then people also were interested in content highlights, how-tos, product updates. So we'll maintain those segments on the call as well. And this week, we would love to know which spaces you guys are participating in. So keep an eye out for that poll closer to the end of the call as well. We appreciate the participation. And on our end, we asked Kevin to do a presentation on what's going on with the PharmaSpace, which is still the curator-led space on Geo. Kevin will also show a setup that he has for working with Geo. And then we'll move on to editor updates for content highlights. And that's going to entail claims, a little bit of a discussion on how we want to see them on the platform, and of course, best content that was generated by the curators as well. So let's go ahead and start. Kevin, very happy to see you on the call. Would you like to begin with the PharmaSpace update?
Sure. All right. Right out of the chute. Good morning, or good day, good afternoon, everybody. Good morning. Yeah, let me share my screen here and I'll do a little blurb. I don't know if you want me to show the Hermes thing I showed agent, but I'm just going to do a PharmaSpace update. And if we have a little time, I can show my setup for how I'm kind of working with stuff. But all right.
Yeah, please do. It's very interesting to see.
Okay. Do that then. All righty. Can everybody see my screen? Got to do the obligatory ask. Cool.
Yep.
All
Loud
right.
and clear.
Perfect. All right, so this is where we're at, PharmaSpace wise. So, PharmaSpace is pretty much unchanged right now. We have the bulk of the information in there that I've talked about on previous calls, but the difference now is we actually have some bounties live and some curators that have been working to kind of complete these bounties. We had talked maybe about the ATC classification before and how that would work to kind of filter what we have. I'm working with Dini on that right now. So we've had a couple calls working on ontology here. We have another curator working on indications. So just kind of basic stuff, tying things together. The third bounty I kind of wanted to give a little blurb on was for any curators out there that might be new or anybody coming in that has an interest in pharma. I wanted to give kind of a quick update on how the bounty creation process can go in pharma. So actually had Tommy reach out to me. I don't know if he's on the call today, but he had been kind of perusing some of the bounties that I had put together on my little site here. I'd only posted three, well, two to start, but I have other ideas, right? And I'm sure other people have a ton of other ideas, and I want those ideas. Please come with them. But one of the ideas I had was an antibiotic resistance mapping. So it's a big issue. Antibiotic stewardship is like important. Finishing your antibiotics when you start them, using them appropriately. It's a huge world global issue, kind of creating antibiotics to treat these organisms, and then also kind of like tracking what works where. Something might work in Las Vegas that doesn't work in New York because the patterns in the hospitals, the way that things have mutated, it's all different. These data sets are totally not connected right now. So these topics are really broad. You can do a lot of things with them. And I had it listed on here kind of as like an aside, and it caught Tommy's eye. So Tommy and I kind of worked together to try to find a way to start. So I think the most important thing in pharma or anywhere is just get started if you haven't published yet. It's a really broad topic, but we're able to narrow it down to something a lot more specific that we thought might be a little bit more viral. The World Health Organization actually lists uh, classifications of bugs that are high priority because there's not a lot of antibiotics right now that can treat them. One that I have a lot of experience with is Pseudomonas. This is a very nasty bug in American hospitals, but also globally. Does a lot of damage. Nosocomial pneumonia. Like I would see people come in with a heart attack and die from a Pseudomonas infection because they just were in the hospital and they caught it. Part of what hospitals especially are trying to do is only use antibiotics for certain conditions. And so we thought this would be a good place to start. So I worked with Tommy to kind of scope out mapping just these 14 bugs, the resistance patterns, and the bugs or drugs that would be used to treat them. And that's a good starting point. So we don't need 1,000 different entities. We just kind of need a little spot to kind of create a bounty and an ontology extension. And then the last thing I kind of did there was work with him to create that example. So if you're interested in a bounty in the pharma space, we can kind of create that bounty bespoke. I can help you create the example ontology and we can rock from there. So there's a lot of different ways to go. I'm really excited to see what Tommy puts together. And again, I have a couple calls with him later this week too. So that's where we're at in pharma in terms of bounties. But I kind of wanted to show a couple tools that I built and then the state of the app that we're kind of using maybe as like a larger vision to kind of keep everybody on the same page. So this is the app now. And a couple things that I wanted to highlight. The genesis of this app was drug information, but then also trying to show cross-border price comparisons. So this is very like basic. This still is buggy. It's got so much that can be done to kind of make it better. But I gotten it to a point where I think at least the idea will kind of make sense. So I kind of improved the top 300 coverage. So a user could come in here and have like apples to apples comparison of the top 300 drugs by volume. So a user could come in here, see atorvastatin, how it's available in North America, the prices. They're able to kind of sort by generic and brand. You'll notice that if I flip to brand here, things get cheaper in Canada. Generics are generally cheaper in the US. You add more info, it's going to get richer. And then the idea is to be able to have it flip between currencies. So anybody could come in here and be able to kind of see pricing apples to apples for their native currencies. But that's not really the bread and butter of this application. So a big thing that I've done over the last couple of weeks here, I've just been working on zhuzhing the way that the information gets presented to a user. So this is still clinical decision support tools. This is still maybe geared towards a doctor or a pharmacist more, but it makes a difference for like an end user to have this data in a way that's really quickly accessible and then like really able to be parsed quickly. So we're going to let this load. I've gotten it to a point where the package inserts load real quick once they get the info from Geo, but I think this loading is actually the API call out to the Geo space to get the pricing, the manufacturer information. And I'm going to show you why this matters. This is unformatted, so this is a different antibiotic. I actually did a lot of work to get these package inserts to like auto format in a way, but there's so many different inserts and there's so many different formats that it's going to take time for edge cases. This actually formatted pretty well, but you can see how it's still kind of hard for me to, if I come in here as a pharmacist and I want to know how to give something, I'm kind of like looking and reading through and it's really kind of time consuming. So one of the things that I've been able to change recently that might not be exciting to most people, but is very exciting to me is essentially cracking the code for taking bulk info and having it just auto generate without losing any content. So this isn't an LLM taking the insert and going, here you go. It's the insert just kind of formatted in a way that's meant for easy parsing. So I come in here as a pharmacist and I want to know, all right, do I need to change the dose of atorvastatin because the patient has renal impairment, which is kidney dysfunction? Boom, there we go. No, you do not need to do that because it's hepatically cleared. So that is not something that you could do before with package inserts. You're kind of like, a user now can come, and this is a big deal, I think, for anybody that's going to use this app. So I kind of wanted to highlight the organization of the information now is kind of solved. It's just, kind of building around it at this point. So that was the update there I wanted to give. We gave the update on. So the next thing that I kind of wanted to talk about, because it kind of got created from the bounty process, is creating a tool for CSVs. So I'll give a quick blurb. I used the CSV import tool for the first time last week. I have been using the SDK and kind of deduplicating that way. It's an amazing tool. It deduplicates. Clearly, a lot of work went into it. It maps everything. So if you're new and you're starting your journey using CSVs to import, absolutely, I was very impressed. It was really cool. It makes it really easy. What I was trying to build after a couple combos with some curators was something that maybe helped them query a space, maybe help them deduplicate offline, talking with Deanie and Tommy and the way that they work, trying to get a feel for their process because we were having some collisions. We were having some issues where things were getting imported into pharma and it was like double typing things and it was kind of getting stuck. So I was trying to figure out a way to kind of bridge that gap, give the power of the SDK maybe to people that would use the CSV. So that's what this application kind of is aimed at doing here. So I like building stuff, which is why I did it. It's not meant to replace anything. It's read only. It doesn't handle private keys or publishing or anything like that. I didn't want to get involved in any of that stuff. So all it's going to do is come in. You can take the space UUID is what you need. And then everything's working really slow here. Bear with me. All right, so you just need the UUID.
There's still this and allocation all thing at the end.
Yeah, good call, good call. So that's going to take a little time. But one of the issues I had that confused me that I'll show you here, I'm also looking for a way to like communicate with curators and kind of convey the knowledge that the light bulb that went off for me in a way that maybe will help the light bulb go off for them as well. Relations being properties, relational properties, these things start to get a little confusing. So one of the things I wanted to do was kind of break things up in three categories. So when I'm talking to curators, it can be really clear exactly like, all right, we're in the PharmaSpace now. Here are our types, our entities, right? Here are the properties related with all of those, right? And we have to go into Geo browser to enter these things. Here are the relations. Relations are properties. I got really confused by that early on. It's just kind of trying to like use words to communicate these concepts. So this is a relational property. And then we have like our regular properties here that are like text, date, etc. So the idea is a user has their CSV and it has 3 columns, say. They come in here and they pick the entity for that the CSV is kind of like rooted around. They pick any relational properties that they're looking to map and any other regular properties they're looking to map. What they can do here, this is the main reason I built the tool, was Deanie was asking for a way to export stuff from a space. So you can come here and kind of quickly just like generate a CSV, and what it'll do is hit that space and then pull out the entity and any of its properties. So you could deduplicate manually if you wanted to. You might want to be able to see everything that's in a space or already there. So it kind of gives you the ability to query and pull where maybe that was an SDK function before and was a little bit more unapproachable. My cat is flipping in behind. Okay. All right, so the real quick here, I'll give you like a demo of how it works. It kind of works very similar to the CSV tool that Geo built. I looked at it and tried to like emulate a lot of what it was doing. So it's going to take your CSV. It's going to be like, yo, there's 2 extra columns. Something's messed up here. If you don't pick the exact amount of columns from step 1 and it doesn't match what you import, it's going to tell you. So at least you know. You can map like the Geo import tool does. So I kind of got to do a little zhuzhing here to make it look prettier, but I'm going to put ATC classification. I'm going to put, I didn't pick ATC code from the last step, so it's not in there. I made it so like only things you pick transfer over. We'll just do that for now. And then it takes you to a deduplication tool. So the idea here is you have your CSV in your columns. You put as many CSVs in as you're looking to deduplicate. And what it's going to do is after you've mapped those files, hit the space and work to look for those exact entities. There's a couple ways in which it dedupes, and I won't get like super into that, but one of the ways is just matching on semantics and using fuzzy to kind of match for any differences. Like capitalization, a little bit like something's misspelled, so you can kind of at least find things that might be close. Like, oh, I actually was trying to import that. Maybe there's a difference there. It's going to hit any exact matches and remove those rows. And then the last thing is it lets you export those deduped files. So it gives the exact input you put in. It just removes the rows that were duplicates, spits out the CSV tool or the CSVs, and then you can use them to import Geo. So it does no importing. It just queries. It's a read-only tool. So a tool that I think will help me talk to curators a little bit, because again, this is the concept that's kind of the hardest for me to demo. Yeah, that's that tool. The last thing I'll show here, if I still have time, is I'll demo kind of my setup because I think this actually is cool. Do I still have time, Davila? I don't want to take other people's time.
Yeah, let's do 5 more minutes and then
Okay.
close things up.
I only need a couple more here. So this is kind of how I've been building things. So I started just using manual prompts and Venice AI. As I talked to GLM 5.2. I was talking to GLM 4.6 a year ago. That's how I started. And along the way, I've been learning just being on Twitter. There's so many cool tools out there. So one of these tools is Hermes Agent. So I have it uploaded on my server now, and I'll show you a RAG system that I built. I have a lot of context that kind of gets stored in a lot of different places. I'm talking to these things all the time, and it's really annoying to have to like come back and search for a previous convo or like a topic and like try to steer the model again to bring it up to speed. So what I'll show you here is an ingestion tool I built. So what is the Phillies score from 7/19/2026? If you can't find in reg, just say I can't find. Okay, so we're gonna ask it that, and I hope that my API keys aren't stale. They're not. Okay, so it can't find it. So I'll show you how fast this works. This is kind of a cool way to do it. So Phillies score, they got worked by the Mets yesterday. Phillies score, Mets. So I've used this for different repos, trying to bring my agent team up to speed. The cool part here is I unleash kind of like these agent teams now that I've learned that you can kind of use to go out and do tasks for you like Claude would, right? I'm using Hermes agent for that. It has access to this system now. So these agents behind the scene are able to hit everything that I have stored. And I have it all vectorized and stored in a system called Quadrant. And it's able to kind of look for things that are most applicable when I ask questions. So what I did here was create a quick little ingest URL helper function. And then we'll feed it this URL and it's going to think. And so what's happening here is my system's going out to this URL, it's scraping it, it's vectorizing it, it's saying a bunch of stuff. See, it just added it to the weights, and then it should be adding the chunks to my system now. So what I'll do is I'll cycle out of Hermes here so it picks up the changes. I actually should have copied that question first, but we're going to ask it again. What was, oh no, I had done this before, from 7/19/2026 first Mets. Please search rank. Say you don't know if you can find it. And while this is working, another system that I kind of created on my server to get that to pull stuff down from uh, the place where I manually speak to the models is I kind of created a helper function to rip down the chat logs from here. Oops. And it does the same thing. So you'll see it'll pop a window here. This is actually on my server. I'm accessing it remotely on my laptop right now. This is one machine here. This is another, and then I'm on my notebook. So it's pulling down all of the chat logs that are stored encrypted on Firefox and doing the same thing, so I'll have access to it. Again, this would take me 20 minutes to talk to a model and try to bring it back up to speed on what I was just working on, and that hopefully is like a lot faster now. So it's taking its sweet time here, but it should be able to tell us now that the Phillies lost 6-1 to the Mets. And we don't need it. There we go. So you can see how fast that worked. And it's got access now to everything that's on this page. And my agent team has access to that now. So I've even been able to kind of go out and be like in prompting and kind of queuing these agents up for different tasks. Like, here's a URL, check this URL out. Or, I'm able to give them more specific directions. So like, it's efficient now. They got the info right off the rip and they're not having to like kind of dance around and hallucinate stuff. So yeah, those are the updates. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. This is very advanced. And keeping that in mind, what would you say, having been a beginning curator, then advanced curator, and now you're an editor of your space, generating all of these tools and mentoring other curators, what would you point in a couple of words as the most rewarding parts of each of those stages?
Confidence, building confidence. Like, I don't know. I don't know where I'm at. I still don't really know where I'm at. Like, I showed up at the beginning of this year. It happened to coincide with, and confidence. That's it. Like, I would say anybody coming in, just publish anything. Just try to publish anything that it might be stupid. It might seem dumb. And then you just get rocking and you got to do something. And then you realize you can do it. And then I tried another thing. And then I see Adam making videos. And then I see Maxime doing stuff. And you start to, so just hang around. Like, I looked at it like kind of going to like Rucker Park in New York to play basketball, right? I'm decent at basketball, but nobody knows that, right? So I'm sitting there waiting and nobody's picking me and I'm just watching. And when I got picked, I can go in and kind of just be that guy or girl, truly. And just try to contribute as much as you can and hang around. I'm now a totally different person, not to be all sappy, but I'm applying for things now and I feel like my skill set, I've just gained a lot of confidence. So yeah.
Thank you, Kevin, for the feedback. We really, really appreciate it. Okay, next segment is content on the Geo platform, and our editors have been working hard on a lot of it. We are going to start with claims. Dan, go ahead and share your screen, please, and let's start with the claims. Sorry, not Dan, Kathleen.
Give me a second. Hello, everyone.
Hey,
Last week we
Kathleen.
had a controversy about Grok privacy practices, which inspired me to create this claim. People and organizations should not trust AI providers with sensitive data. On the overview page, we have supporting arguments and opposing arguments. Then we have related news stories. Then we have a new tab called Related Claims, where we organized our claims by topic. Then we have a tab where we organized our sources used for the claims, but also by topic. And that's all. It's quite simple design for this debate.
These claims, the editor's been playing around with different approaches to showcase different information about them. So this is a good opportunity maybe to take some feedback. Also, Yaniv, if you have any notes on this. So we have the overview where you have the supporting and opposing arguments, which is fine. So in this case, we have supporting arguments, sharing sensitive information with third parties increases the risk on unauthorized disclosure. Yeah, so these are arguments that are kind of oppose or argue in favor of it. The related claims is a tab that we thought of. Open question about like the naming of this tab, but the idea here is that not all claims are directly opposing or supporting the claim, right, as an argument, but they can be like factual, other type of statements that do matter for the debate, and to go through that and see how that can be used for for the claim itself might be useful. open question if we want to have it that way. Like I'd say like might be useful to like check in some like facts about it. It's kind of content.
It
And
makes
for
sense to me. It makes sense to me as a concept. I'm a little curious just about the page layout using the tabs. These are direct, like related claims relations, or
they
are we creating collections here that are just
uh,
separate?
for the sake of the demos for these conversations, these are done with collections. If we were to approve that the concept works, we would then make them in a proper relation.
Yeah.
It would open up the question of what would be the relation, right? So it could be just a relation called related claims on a claim, which could make sense. And those relations could be then be assigned topics, the relations themselves that would create these separate tables.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I think we do sometimes have this difference between, related things and like sub things. Um, and I do think it's nice to have the hierarchy where the hierarchy exists, and maybe, everything else can just be the related thing. But yeah, I agree with the concept here. Makes sense.
Okay. And for the sources also, if Kathleen, if you'll click there. So this is one way to do it. So sources obviously is a huge part of any claim, right? Like it's any credible institutions, any people that are relevant to the conversation, anyone who is kind of supporting or the claim, and it's a very well established like general concept of citation, right? It's everywhere. It's in Wikipedia. It's in many user-generated platforms, encyclopedias as well. So here are the sources organized by topics, which is a way to do it and kind of makes sense. Like Security Incidents Act provide the policies and regulations. Another way to do it would be, for example, and it would be interesting to see the sources by type, right? Like an article is a source, a document is also a source, an ex post, stuff like that. Anything that is relevant to it. But maybe here we are starting to push the concept of the tab a little bit to the limit, because like either we would have multiple tabs to organize sources in different ways, which would be practically useful to see like sources organized in different ways, but feels like we would be pushing kind of tabs to its limit by having like multiple tabs essentially for the same kind of thing.
Is what you're trying to get just basically named filters?
Kind of, I guess, like
If you
or
had a
like
data block with named filters where you could filter by the type, is that kind of what you want?
Uh, yeah, yeah. But so we have that option. Like it's like so it would not be difficult on the same tab instead of creating tables like this, right? So here it's like a source, and it has in a proper ontology it would have like a filter, and the filter is the topic, and it would be a relation table. It could also be just a filtered by type, and you would see these are the exposed sources, these are the document type sources. So the problem is not exactly like creating the table. We can do that. The question is on the tabs, right? Like, so I might want to browse sources by topics. I might want to browse sources by types, and like finding a place for that.
I'm still not seeing why we would need multiple tabs for that. So then I think the question just becomes what would the optimal layout be in a single tab? It seems like it should be doable.
So would you think? So do you agree that there is a practical point to actually have sources organized by types and by also topics, but we would use one tab for that, so it would be just more tables.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the by topics. I mean, I guess you're saying these are the topics here, huh? Like the security
Yeah, that's an
incidents.
example of it. Yeah.
So, yeah, so really it's kind of this almost group by thing,
Yep.
with like named filters or named, views. So why don't we take that offline? But it's a content question, and I could see how that would be nice to have. Um, one question I have on naming is when to use sources versus when to use evidence. I think there's like overlapping concepts. Do we have any thoughts on that?
Hmm.
I have like one quick note is that in this case, for example, an article that is saying something about it might be more of a source, not necessarily, it's not an evidence by itself, right? Like, so an evidence, it could be a concept that is useful, but it's not exactly what a source is. It's a different type of thing.
I feel like a supporting source and evidence are the same thing.
Like for a claim, if you have a source for a specific claim, that is the same thing as evidence
I say yes.
versus because you could have sources for like a story, and that is a thing that's different from evidence, right? Because to Arturus's point, it's like here's some coverage of this thing. Um, you could claim it as evidence to say, well, this publication published this fact, so that makes it evidence, even if it's not firsthand. I don't know if there's an element of whether something is firsthand or secondhand that is a factor.
I
Part
think
of
when you say evidence like it is a video or a live image, it is
Or a
something
code.
like that more.
Could be.
Yeah, I've always been had a bit of a curiosity about claims and how we think about them. Originally when we were talking about quotes and quotes had an author, whereas claims would be more of like context independent things. And in that case, it kind of seems like these sources should be like supporting this or opposing it rather than being the source of it. Because a claim can have many, many, many sources. So every time someone newly states anything about that claim, we're adding a new source, and it's just conceptually a bit different than saying that this is like the source of some data or the source of something else.
Yeah, I think that actually does make sense in a way. Like it's like purely technically speaking, like we chose the word sources for now because it kind of most intuitively understood, like, hey, these are the sources. So like you kind of expect to see some articles and stuff like that. But technically, purely on a technical level, yes, like if a new article comes out right now, right, about this claim, we would add it, even though this article actually is younger than the claim itself, but we still call it a source, right? Which kind of doesn't make sense, just like on a purely technical level. So like maybe it would be kind of either it could be called media or citations, like and it would kind of meet the same purpose.
I'm
But in
okay
the
with source not meaning that this is where the thing originated from. I'm okay with source just being coverage.
Okay.
And we could have a different relation type if we want to say like, first appeared or, original source or something like that could be a separate relation type.
Okay. Yeah, so I think this is pretty good. We can move to the next one.
Hello, everyone. I would like to share the example that I created about how to discuss a debate or form a debate. My idea was to put it on a single page, like you were mentioning before, Yaniv. So I put the two main, like, high-level arguments here, or let's say claims. I put also here a collection. I called it a context claims. These claims are not supporting or opposing, but they provide context when you read them. And from here, I went into the two high-level claims, and I added the supporting and opposing to each of them. Now I have taken different approaches because I wanted to get more feedback from you. Like the first approach was that the claim has sources. So I'm like saying that this is a factual claim. The second approach that I took, that the claim doesn't have a source. The claim has supporting argument and opposing argument. And these have the sources. Like when I go further, sorry, yeah, when I go further more, I can show you here that the claim now has supporting and opposing and sources. And each of these that have also sources. So I wanted to get some feedback from you and from Arturas about this. Which approach is the most practical one and appealing one?
From my perspective, it's still it's the same type claim, right? So I would say as long as a source actually is relevant to the claim, regardless if there is like a opposing or supporting claims, you would add that source. Like it's just a good relation to have. It's if a relation exists in real life, right? If this claim can be sourced, right? Like there's like other like relevant information in these articles, in these documents about this claim, connected. If some of them also happen to be relevant to some other claims, which happen to be supporting claims, you would add it there, right? Like you can add the same source on multiple claims. That still that makes perfect sense because claims are context independent, right? It doesn't really matter for the claim that there are other claims that somehow relate to it. That claim can show up at queries, it can show up at searches, and it would be good to have sources if those sources exist.
Yeah, and the first one that I shown without sources, I meant that maybe a curator can come and have a claim, and he doesn't have a source for it. Like it is his claim, and he's supporting it by like supporting arguments, and we are opposing it with opposing arguments, and these are sourced.
I think people can still add the sources to it. I hear what you're saying, but I guess the point is it's not I don't know if it's practical to assume that we're going to represent like provenance in that type of a way, right? Like, we're saying that person came up with that claim,
Yeah,
but that doesn't really mean that they're like the first person to ever have that thought or, make that
of
claim
course.
just because
Yeah,
they
of course.
added it. So I don't think that, I think the provenance almost exists just from the history, right? The version history, you see, oh, that person published it first, but I think you should still be able to add sources to it
Yeah,
that
yeah,
support
and
it.
like the difference is the one with the sources can be factual, and the one without sources is not factual. And the last thing here, I wanted to show also that I added a tab here for the sources, and the sources were like about supporting articles, supporting news stories, and opposing articles and opposing news stories. I think maybe it is a simpler way than to put them into topics and to make it easier for
Example,
people.
yeah,
So
of
this is a
grouped by
little
types.
strange to me. I don't think we've seen this before. Can you scroll up? So opposing articles, news stories. So this is all for, okay, so also so we created this type debate. I guess even starting with this, I'm not sure that this is what we mean by debate. So I'm not sure, I guess, what we wanted to accomplish with this debate type.
The debate type is supposed to be used for the debates app
Yeah,
or
I
debate
think we should just use a
functionality
topic
for,
for this.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Is that what you meant it to be, Ahmed? Right? It's really just like a topic, right?
No, I really wanted it to be a debate. Like these are two debate points. Like these are
Well,
the
one
highest high level points.
So one
That
thing just
yeah, that
quickly,
who has the responsibility for the ceasefire to collapse?
So,
This is
so,
the
so in
debate.
your mind, is the term debate here basically saying that we're trying to structure the arguments?
Yeah, yeah. I'm trying to like build the way to both sides, to build the bridges.
So one
in
side here is, right, so basically you have a topic, right, which is responsibility for the ceasefire's collapse. And then you have two different perspectives on this topic.
Yeah,
Is that right?
exactly,
And
exactly.
then you're
One
saying
saying
you
it
want to
was.
face them off, so it's the first version against the second version.
Yeah, exactly. So the first is saying Iran was responsible. The second is saying the United States was responsible for it.
Right. So I guess it's a different ontology for debate, right? I think one of the directions that we've decided on is to really center each debate on a claim, right? That kind of has like a for perspective and an against perspective. So I think either of these are both claims. Each one could be its own claim, and then the other one is kind of the inverse claim.
Exactly,
And
exactly.
so you'd create a debate. Um, Now, I guess the way we're using the terminology, we're kind of making each debate essentially like a particular video,
Yeah,
right? That's kind of like between two particular people, right? So it's like an instance of a specific discussion that occurred. Now, I guess you could have different type of debates. Video debates could be one type. You could have like a text online debate or something as well. But I guess, in our ontology, I guess we've been using a debate has specific participants.
yeah, yeah. I know. And
in
these we had this on the third community call. So it was a community call, and we were discussing these points. So I can
the,
add the participants in the call that as participants in the debate because they
the
participated.
the way I would think about this is really what we're trying to do is turn. So this seems like when I go into a debate, which is the video debate, we are debating a concept, which that concept we're debating is a claim in our ontology. This kind of seems like the claim level structure we should have, where the claim has supporting and opposing arguments, right? This is laying out two sides to the claim, but really this is just saying, like, if this claim was Iran, I don't know if you scroll up, what's the title of this? Yeah, so it's like Iran ceasefire collapse. So this seems like a topic title, but you could have this be the claim Iran was primarily responsible, and then the supporting arguments and opposing arguments would essentially just be what is there. And then the other side of it should just be the negative side of those supporting or opposing arguments, or you can add them as the inverse, supporting arguments of the US responsible would be opposing and vice versa. But it'd be good to have this data on a claim, and then we come in and have debates around it. And then this seems like more of a topic level name for the entity, and that topic should organize claims surrounding that topic, and that can then be a more parent umbrella to a bunch of different claims. So I would look at a claim as what you're thinking of as a debate here, because at the
Mm,
end of the day, a claim can be debated through these video debates. That is what this debate entity is focused on. And then we can
yeah.
also have what Yaniv was saying is like more async text-based debates, which could happen in the comments of the claim or in a different entity type or a poll or something like that if we wanted to structure things different ways. But this is great information. It just seems like it lives on the claim entity.
Yeah, yeah,
And I would say this does work perfectly as a topic, right? Iran ceasefire collapse, right? It's
Yeah.
a normal. It actually, if you're using this as a debate, you should at least have another actual entity as a topic for the same thing because it is a concept that is a topic. And so topics actually should have claims. Topics should have important claims organized, and you're organizing them. So it is a topic. Now, for a debate specifically, I think, yes, like the way that for this specific case, I don't think it should be a debate, but I think we should consider one aspect as we're like having the debate, the entity type for our debates, right? That we're having on Geo on claims.
mm,
Probably we will want to publish at some point debate entities that happened, like certain specific debates, right? For example, political party presidential debates, right? Those are a type debate, probably, right? Like, or we need to figure out an entirely new entity name. So either it should be a debate entity name, an entity type, and our debate should also be the same, have the same properties. It had a place, participants, and some things that were said about it, but nothing outside of that, right? Like, for example, I think even Ahmed, sometimes you do update the claims that were made in the debate, like in the community call, and you kind of present polished version. So I think that's better to be done on topic, because that doesn't even fully represent, right? If a debate happened and it's a debate entity, even if some mistakes were done, you keep it because that was what was happening in the debate,
Yeah, that
and the
was
topic
the
is something
debate.
that you polish.
Yeah, I agree with you that what happened on the community call can be a debate. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I
Great work.
appreciate all the feedback.
Yeah, great launch point for discussion.
All right. So on the CryptoSpace this week, the community had a debate on whether the US government should hold a strategic Bitcoin reserve. And we got active participation in this debate by curators and editors. So in the CryptoSpace community call, we had a live debate where everyone added their arguments, and then we organized the claims hierarchically into what everyone said. On the overview page, we have the top level claims. Here we have claims for the reserve. So these are people saying Bitcoin is a digital gold for the US reserve. It costs taxpayers nothing. And then we have claims against the reserve. And what's really beautiful about this is when you go in some of the notable claims, we have supporting arguments by members of the community and opposing arguments against those claims. So this one saying Bitcoin is too volatile to be a US reserve asset. We have a claim supporting that. A reserve asset should hold mature stable assets and not early stage one like Bitcoin. And then others also opposed the opposing argument, saying Bitcoin has already shown years of resilience, proving it is mature enough for a government reserve. So that's how deep the conversation really goes.
Real quick, is there a reason to call these two tables for the reserve against the reserve as opposed to just supporting and opposing arguments, just for the consistency?
Nope, no reason. It can be supporting arguments and opposing arguments if we want it to be consistent across all of the claims.
Okay, and you have some other tabs that you're experimenting with.
Exactly, yeah. We have the tabs on the sources, on supporting arguments, opposing arguments. So let's look at some of those tabs. Where are you? Okay. So here we have the sources. We have news articles and even news stories on the strategic Bitcoin reserve. And then these are notable people that are for the reserve and opponents of the reserve. We also have related claims. So these are claims that are related to the main claim on whether the US government should hold a strategic Bitcoin reserve. And then these are the community members that argued for the reserve and then argued against the reserve. So we tried to really capture the whole of the debates inside of this claim. And another example of how deep the conversation went is the claim that says the US Bitcoin reserve has stalled in practice. So an announcement was made, a presidential edict was made, but then several months later, there's nothing happening. And we're here saying the reserve has told in practice. So we have lots of supporting arguments on this claim and then opposing arguments in there. And a layer, when we can also go a layer deep on
But
the
I think
supporting
the ontology is the
arguments.
same, right? At this
Yeah.
point, like you're just showing
Yeah,
just
it's
more
the
of
same.
the same structure. Okay, so we can take a look at the structure
Yeah.
maybe then. Like if you go to the claim with your tabs.
Yeah. This is
So
the main claim.
supporters and opponents. If you click on that one, so just wanted to like do a quick vibe check on this tab. How do we feel about this one? Like on a practical level, like it is interesting to see that, you know, like it is relevant information that Donald Trump supports this claim, I guess, right? If he does. It is relevant that Elizabeth Warren doesn't. If we, in general, think that this does make sense to have, like, then it will open up like a question on how do we want to add that connection. You know, like, so I guess we would want sources that support the fact that Donald Trump supports this claim in this case. So here, I think what would make sense in this case is to have a relation between Trump and this claim. And in that relation entity, we would add this, like we would kind of have the sources property and we would link those sources. We would also have quotes and we would add those quotes.
Agreed. I like it. So yeah, I think supported by and opposed by seem like good relation type names to me. And then I agree we could have relations off of the relations for the sources.
Are we
Okay, yeah.
are we essentially then turning those relation entities into claims? Because the relation could be named, you know, Donald Trump supports whatever this claim is. And then you could treat that exactly the same way we treat other claims.
Semantically, relation is a claim, but
yeah. I mean, you could say that any fact in the system is a claim, but I don't know if it needs to have type claim.
Okay.
Okay, so a lot of deep thinking happening throughout the last week. Very lovely to see. Since we're running short on time, I will share some updates on other contributions this week. We had definitely more of those. I'll share some information on what you can do on the platform if you're looking for something to keep you occupied. And that's it for today. Yaniv, any closing words for us?
No, thanks for your patience. We are going to get another crypto related ranking competition out shortly. So keep an eye out for that. And then we're going to continue with our focus on US politics, world affairs, organizing claims and debates, trying to build our muscle for organizing the top claims, you know, for the top topics of the day. Excited to see some more swarming around that. Otherwise, looks like all the work people are doing is really on point. So thanks for all the great work and excited for another week ahead.
Thank you, everybody. Till the next one.
thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great week.